Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to April and our webinar today. Our webinar today is All Eyes on OTT, Breakout Media Category in 2021. My name is Patrick Buno. I'm a marketing manager with BIA Advisory Services, and I'll be running the webinar for you today. So we're going to go ahead and give everyone else a few more minutes to get it log on and get settled. So as they're doing that, I just have a few housekeeping items to go through. I'd like to start off by reminding everybody that we are recording today's webinar, and that all registered attendees will be receiving an email link from us with the on-demand version of the webinar, as well as a PDF of the slide deck. Keep a lookout for that from BIA. And also, if you experience any technical difficulties during today's webinar, please email us at webinars@bia.com. We have some staff that is standing by that can try to assist you and help you with that. And then finally, we have a very packed webinar today. We encourage you to ask questions. If anytime you have questions, please just type it in your questions box on your GoToWebinar panel. And we're going to try to get to your questions at the end of today's webinar, but if we don't have time, we'll be sure to follow up with you separately with that. And then as you log out, if you could take a few minutes just to fill out our follow-up survey after today's webinar. We'd just like to get input on what you thought of today's webinar. We appreciate your feedback very much. So with that, I think we're going to get things started here. I'm going to hand things over to the Managing Director of BIA Advisory Services, Rick Ducey. Rick?
Patrick, thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have this webinar today. We have a fantastic group of industry executives from different parts of the OTT space to share their thoughts in a typically wide-ranging and lively discussion that my co-host, Mitch Oscar, will be moderating. We're going to cover a number of different topics. We've got such a great group of people that it's going to be a challenge to share the mic here, but I think you'll find this a very lively, informative session. We'll talk about our forecast, BIA's forecast. Now, when we do our advertising forecast, it's for the local markets. It can be any advertiser, national, regional, local, but it has to be a geo element, so it's competitive in that local ad market. That's what we'll talk about. For OTT, that includes a number of different kinds of things, tablets, smartphones, desktops, and so on. When we talk about OTT, we focus on the part of that market where most of the impressions and most of the monetization happens in ad-supported OTT plays, which is mostly the connected TV set. So it's kind of competitive for linear video spending. So when we talk about BIA's forecast, it's really the CTV part of the OTT marketplace. So in this, we'll talk about connected devices, what some of the TV broadcast groups are doing with their OTT plays. We've got a range of different executives from different parts of the space: attribution, measurement, ad operations, the ad tech workflow, and programmatic trading. So it's going to be a pretty full set of viewpoints and information we'll have. And BIA, we love to sponsor these kinds of discussions for industry education and share some hopefully provocative, informative ideas and sometimes opinions as things are. So hopefully everybody will find something useful and stimulating from this webinar. And we do OTT forecasts, as I mentioned. We work with a lot of companies in this space for CI, competitive intelligence, looking at solution providers in the space, what they're providing in terms of services and products, and in their competitive set, look at that. And in strategy consulting, helping management look at market sizing, trends, competitive kind of challenges, product roadmap, a variety of different things in the strategy side of things. And at the end, we'll talk a little bit about some of our local marketing advertising estimates. So Mitch, I just want to say hello. Thank you for joining us today and bringing together a wonderful cast of people that are going to talk with us about OTT.
Hi, thank you, Rick.
Okay, so I'm going to just keep rolling through here so we can get going. So our OTT coverage, we've been ramping up more of our coverage in OTT. One thing we just started recently is a podcast. And again, our branding is related to our focus on local. So Leading Local Insights is a new podcast. We have 3 episodes out that come out on Tuesdays. Please check that out. Let us know what you think. We've been doing local digital event series with our partner Sales Fuel. We have a OTT entry in that series as well. And again, we look at the total media landscape. We've been in the business for over 37 years and 5,000 engagements. So we have it's almost like the insurance ad. Yes, we've done a lot of different things. We're happy to involve people with sharing our knowledge and try to figure out things that they're looking at. Next slide, please. So local, I mentioned what our definition there is. I talked about OTT. It's really the connected TV part. There's a lot happening throughout OTT. But again, most of the impressions for premium video in the space that are getting monetized by advertising tend to be what's on the TV set, the smart TV set that comes inherently connectable or connected through some sort of device. That's what we'll be talking about from BIA's perspective. Some of our speakers today will have a different take on that. So I just want to make that distinction there. Next slide, please. So when BIA does talk about CTV, what does that look like in terms of ad spend? Last year, we figure it ended up just shy of $1 billion. This year, 2021, we see it rising about 20% to about $1.2 billion. And, there's a nice progression here in terms of growth. No question about that. Everybody wants to be part of a growth story. And so in just relatively short few years, this space is going to double in spending. And again, you've seen other numbers out there for OTT forecasts. That includes national spending, or actually most of the OTT spending is. We're just focusing on local here. So human eyes are attracted to movement and growth, and this is a nice looking chart for growth that we don't often see elsewhere in the media space these days. Next slide. But to give it a little bit more context here, so OTT as a growth segment is certainly exciting. And yellow is local over the top in this comparison of stacked bar charts for this year and then the end of our forecast series, which is 2025. So we'll show it's doubling, 1.2 billion about in 2021 and 2.4 billion in 2025. So great growth story, doubling. But still, the lion's share of what's happening in local video is certainly linear. The bottom blue is linear TV, broadcast TV over the air, and then the next biggest part is local cable. You can see by 2025, local online video, which is basically the rest of OTT and outroll video through connected devices. Starts to get bigger than cable TV. So there's a little bit of movement in video, and clearly over the top is going to be a big part of that. Now, mobile video is something that's also growing quite a bit. The sort of yellow, the light green bar there, 1.1 billion in 2021 and 2.3 in 2025. At the moment, even if you're watching Hulu or something like that on your phone, we put that into mobile video at BIA rather than over the top. So just when you're comparing numbers, it's important to be sure apples and oranges, but that's how we approach this. And Mitch, with that, I think I just want to set the stage with a few numbers to kind of size what we're talking about at BIA in terms of local and give a little bit of character to what our conversation is going to evolve to be for the rest of the session. So Mitch, let me kick it back over to you.
All right, thank you. Next, please. So normally when we do these webinars, I might do an overview of the sector, but we decided because we have Justin to speak with us today, that this chart that I put together that shows all of the advanced television platforms and how they kind of interact in terms of segments. Anybody who wants one, please write to Rick Ducey. I'm not going to go over it now, but it had a lot of nice colors, so we wanted to flash the colors. So I think now we want to go to the next slide. And here are the panelists. So what we're going to do is ask each panelist to take 30 seconds and explain who they are and what their company does. And we're going to start with Lauren.
Thank you, Mitch.
Yes.
As an avid Zoom user, the GoToWebinar has me looking for the unmute. So many of you, I know Operative. I see some customers on the call. We are the revenue accelerant for converged media companies. And our main job is really to help those companies compete in markets where they see high growth. And we do that by liberating them from their legacy tech stacks with best in breed cloud native. We provide an open framework, and we enable continuous innovation to support those growth markets by deploying our ad sales platform, AOS. So if you have a linear business, a digital ad sales business, or you're going after markets that are in between those businesses, converge selling, bring your own data, that's where the growth lies. So if you wanted to move everything to impressions, for example, as Rick was just talking about, at a time when a lot of your inventory is not impressions, that's something we enable.
Thank you, Lauren. Justin.
Thanks, Mitch. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. Justin Frome with Advertiser Perceptions. We are the leading business intelligence provider in the media space. We have a panel of advertising decision makers on the brand and agency side, and we help anyone who markets to marketers build their business and increase their sales.
Thank you. Adam.
Thanks, Mitch. Happy to be here. MadHive is an enterprise software platform. We power local reach extension. Kind of what that means, like, all the incumbent broadcast groups with those big linear numbers and this burgeoning, multi-billions coming out in OTT. We aim to basically service that white space, and get deep into the enterprise and the broadcast groups. And we also see that as a great model that, hey, if I'm really good at local programmatically for TV, that kind of starts creating a better national product as well. So that's kind of how we look at the world.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Oh, you're going to continue? You have another sentence or two?
I was just thanking you. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Brian Hunt.
Sure. So many of you are familiar with Sinclair. We're a broadcast company by heritage with 100+ stations, but we also have some really great connected TV OTT products. One of which is Compulse OTT, which is an aggregation of CTV ad impressions that we can sell in local DMAs or zip codes. We also have some great apps. We have News On and Stir. News On, I should add, is now the #2 news and information app on all of Roku. We actually beat out NBC News and Fox News as well. And then we've recently, as many of you know, have gotten into the sports business. We acquired 23 regional sports networks. Of course, we previously owned the Tennis Channel, and we've recently rebranded those as Bally Sports. In fact, that app launched today with the launch of Major League Baseball on opening day. And I should just add that I'm an avid Cubs fan, and that game is going to start here in about an hour. So go Cubs. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Brian. Joe.
Hey, Mitch, thanks for having me. Joe Kinsella, president of TV Squared, the biggest attribution platform in the world by now. We do reach and frequency, we do reach extension, we do attribution and outcomes and audiences in 75 countries. And we've processed more than 1 million campaigns. We're probably about the industry standard for local now, but obviously our platform is now focused on full cross-platform CTV plus all things linear. In fact, it's probably easier to tell you what we don't do, which is Apple and YouTube. We do everything else.
Thank you, Joe. Brian Page.
Thanks, Mitch. Brian Page, Managing Director of Scripps Octane OTT for the EW Scripps Company. Most of, I think everybody out there knows Scripps is our local and national TV organization. We've been in a vast expansion mode. We've added a lot of OTT platforms, and we focus on free OTT primarily. Octane is our incremental reach product where we go out there through attribution tools and such, prove the incremental reach. Our focus has been on service, proving it's not fraudulent, as well as proving that this works.
Thank you. And Brian Schaefer.
Brian Schaefer, that's me. Hi.
Yeah.
So I've been with Vivo for just under 3 years now. Vivo is the leader in global music television distribution. We represent the aggregate of the music video category. We're available in 55 international markets. And the last few years, we've just been laser focused on our strategy as it pertains to finding growth in our advertising and distribution business, and have really worked to stand up a modern day CTV network, so to speak, and just been working with our clients to learn about a lot of the advantages of that.
Thank you, Brian. And Chris Wilson.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Mitch. Chris Wilson, Chief Commercial Officer from ComScore. ComScore does a number of things, but primarily our focus is on measurement. From a ratings and planning standpoint, we do measurement for all types of media, from linear television, OTT, addressable, digital, all things in between. We have a big focus on being able to provide the market with audiences against that measurement. Although we do support GRPs for television, we're a big proponent for moving to impressions. That's the common language across all media, because we look at it from a very holistic perspective. And much like what Joe had mentioned, it isn't just about being able to find the right audience and be able to understand where to reach them and what type of content or what kind of ads that are served. It's also understanding the outcome of those exposure to ads. So our focus is really being able to bring all those pieces together, leveraging currency grade measurement, so that the media ecosystem is in a position to kind of move towards the future as the market continues to fragment. As scale is important, to be able to understand how all these things work together and be able to do that in an unduplicated fashion. So that's really where we spend our time and energy. Work with both the buy and the sell side. So we're happy to be here. So appreciate the invite, Mitch.
Thanks, Chris. So this is a first for our webinars. We actually have 3 Brians on one panel. So just want to say that's an accomplishment for the group. So before we start, I want to just ask Joe a question. I read a headline that says ad tech leaders unite to measure the Ad Council and COVID Collaborative COVID-19 Vaccine Education Initiative, TV Squared, Upwave, Kinetic, and Ace Metric. What's that about, Joe?
Oh, thanks for the shout out, Mitch. I appreciate it. We always talk about attribution for business results, but isn't it wonderful to see these companies collaborate for the sake of the greater good? So my mantra, and most of you have heard me say this for this year, is action and impact by collaboration. And I'm really happy to see this come together. It's the largest PSA campaign in US history, and I think for most of us in our lifetimes, we hope in our lifetimes. So we all got together to measure the effectiveness of the Ad Council's campaign. So Ad Council and COVID Collaborative on giving them insights to allow them to serve the right message to diverse audiences to maximize cross-channel, cross-platform TV strategy. And actually, it was Bob Ivins, our Chief Strategy Officer at TV Squared, that put it all together. Big shout out to Bob, and big shout out to Andrew Longworth on my team for doing all the insights. Ace Metrics, Kinetic, Upwave have been amazing partners, and actually the Ad Council was like, this is the first time we've been able to measure everything cross-platform. And I think it just shows that when we come together as a community and we collaborate, Mitch, that we can transform this industry. So it's a really great opportunity for everybody. If anyone's interested in joining up with us and joining forces on this, give me a shout, contact me if you want to get involved. But here's getting us back to being able to spend time together in person, and here's to more industry collaboration.
Thank you, Joe. So Justin Fromm, you're up. He's of Ad Perceptions, and he's going to give us an overview of the company's latest survey, Video Advertising Convergence Report. Take it away, Justin.
Thanks, Mitch. And I just wanted to share with the audience, there's a lot of data here, but you can tell from the intro slide that all of us here on this panel could talk for ages. I'd rather not spend a lot of time talking about this. I'd rather let everyone talk about the context here. So let me give the background. This is an annual study that we've been doing for the last decade about. It is 284 interviews among video advertising decision makers on the brand and the agency side. Next slide, please. So I think that, someone mentioned, I think the triple threat of video, the sight, sound, and motion. I kind of grew up in the television media space and kind of was very biased to that. But I think it's important to note when we ask advertisers which is the one media type that is most important to reaching your advertising goals and KPIs, half of them respond video, right? So video is incredibly important. And of course, next slide, please. Over the last year, right, the pandemic has certainly pushed OTT and CTV into the forefront. OTT has been around for many years. Brian was at Hulu. I was at Hulu more, that's a year old now. So that is not anything terribly new. But over the last year, consumers really picked up on it. And advertisers were definitely paying attention. Our video ad convergence report was focused originally on connecting the buying process of linear television and digital video. A decade ago, that was not happening, and now obviously it's happening more and more, although still obviously a challenge for lots of advertisers. Last year, we started thinking about advertising that hits the TV screen and hits digital screens, because obviously people are thinking beyond linear television, as you saw in Rick's forecast data. eMarketer, just for comparison's sake, has national advertising on CTV at $13.5 billion for 2021. So you can see how that compares to kind of what's happening on the local side. Certainly reaching scale. And when you ask about where advertisers want to spend their money, whether it's on the digital video front or on the next slide, please, on the TV side, it is OTT streaming services. It is connected TV. So on the next slide, what's driving that? Obviously, audiences there, but the idea of addressability, right? We talk about addressability, not just in addressable television, which was kind of what we meant when we said addressability maybe 3 years ago. Now addressability is everywhere, and everything is expected to be addressable. On the TV screen, of course, the very bottom there, you can see linear TV is the least likely to be addressable all of the time. So that's one of the reasons that OTT and CTV continues to be incredibly important. Next slide, please. And if we think about the video tactics, right? If video is the most important media type, if we think about different video tactics across digital and the TV screen, you can see that streaming is a top 5 tactic for nearly 60% of advertisers, right up there with social media and linear television. Next slide, please. Linear TV still is at the top because that's where the mass audience still is, right? And when we ask advertisers which are the determining factors when they choose a partner on the streaming front, it is audience reach, ahead of quality programming, ahead of quality advertising opportunities. And just a year ago, quality of programming was at the top there. But with the growth of so many players in the space, one of the reasons I think many of you have come to hear us talk today, advertisers are looking to be able to reach the audiences at scale. Whereas they are able to kind of put an ad on linear television, create a schedule in one place, and get mass reach, is more of a challenge on the connected TV side. And next slide, please. Programmatic is growing in the CTV space as well. This slide is from a separate study that we do on a programmatic intelligence report. This is all about DSPs. But in the section around CTV and programmatic for CTV, we ask what are the drivers for selecting a DSP in the CTV OTT advertising space. And again, reach scale is right up there. Next slide. So you've seen a lot of growth. You saw Rick's chart, which is up and to the right, which is what everybody loves. But there certainly are challenges, right? Measurement is absolutely at the top of that list. Reach we talked about certainly as well. Here's a statement. We asked an agreement statement. By adding on digital video and OTT to my linear TV buy, I'm just buying impressions without knowing the reach, frequency, effectiveness of my entire campaign. I'm sure everyone on this panel is glad to talk about this because I know that we're evolving here. The perception in the marketplace, though, for 60% of advertisers is that this is really a challenge. And just those 20% are finding their way through this. So this certainly is one of the directions that we need to go in. And then on the next slide, too, I mentioned programmatic. One of the challenges as the opportunity grows in CTV, so will fraud, because we know the fraudsters stay ahead of the curve. They are looking for that high price inventory, and advertisers are already thinking about the challenges there. And I believe that brings me quickly to the end of my slides. I'm happy to share more about this with anyone who's interested. Here are my contact details. We'll be launching a study later in the year specifically about CTV, obviously slightly different from video convergence. We'll be looking at the different inventory types available on CTV and those players. So thanks for inviting me, Mitch. I'm excited to hear what everyone else has to say.
Thank you, Justin. So I just wanted one clarification. So when Justin said that eMarketer is pegging the ad revenue at 13.5 billion, what we as a community have to understand is they're including YouTube as well. So I asked them what percent is YouTube, and they said 40% of the whatever number they publish is YouTube. So just for clarification, since Justin mentioned it. All right, so let's discuss variations on OTT themes. So Brian Hunt, based on Justin's study, reach followed by ad fraud is the biggest concern in the OTT realm. Is reach that important?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important. We, as you know, many platforms do, we report out our unique reach and then the frequency to that reach, you know, over the campaign. And I think that's, you know, increasingly kind of becoming a requirement in terms of local CTV, OTT reporting. And it's also, you know, the reach is, you know, just when you sort of look at from a media planning perspective, it's not just reach to uniques, but it's also looking at, well, who are you reaching exactly? And in terms of, is that a cable authenticated subscriber? Is it a cord cutter? Is it a hybrid, you know, person where you're hitting them, you know, multiple, you know, ways? You know, we have a couple slides in our deck, and I know the stats so well, I can quote them, but basically 28% of all people are cord cutters. So the only way you can reach them is, you know, by, you know, buying, you know, connected TV, OTT, otherwise you're going to miss out on them. And when you look at it by generation, particularly millennials, which people, you know, forget are now up to 38 years old, these are like huge mass consumers of products and services. And so businesses that forget to include or don't include CTV, OTT as part of their media mix, you're going to start missing out on this huge, you know, group of consumers that you really need to hit. And there's one other stat I love to throw out, which is 65% of Gen Zs and millennials have 4 or more OTT subscriptions. So again, you know, you almost sort of have to have that to be able to reach that group. And I'll just address one last thing, which is the fraud, you know, issue. I think the fraud issue, you know, is a little overblown specifically in connected TV. Is it something you got to watch? Of course. But, you know, when I read a lot of these business to business trade articles, you know, they're typically quoting somebody that works for an ad tech company that, wouldn't you know it, would benefit from the fact that, you know, you would use their fraud detection. And so, you know, in connected TV, particularly in the United States, it's something you have to watch, but I don't think it's a big issue. Now, if you're including OTT as desktop and mobile, well, yeah, then I think, you know, it is, you have to have certain fraud protection, and our platform does, and I know most platforms utilize some form of fraud protection. I just don't think it's a big issue today in connected TV.
Thank you, Brian. Brian Page, is what Brian Hunt said true?
Yeah, I completely agree with Brian. It is very true. All those articles you come out, and lo and behold, it is someone who benefits from that. With that said, like Brian said, we have double verify, you know, pre-bid solution to authorize to make sure the supply path was legitimate before we buy the impression for those customers who really, really care about that. But it is definitely, you know, fraud is a big thing, as well as I think the other big thing is just proving this stuff works, proving the effectiveness. And with the way things are going with all the different, you know, whether it's IDFA going away or cookies going away.
On that, wait, I want to bring you back because it was ad fraud and also reach. Why is reach important?
Oh, it's very important because we know proof shows someone sees something, you know, a multiple amount of times, it's effective. If someone sees it once or twice, it's not effective. So we have to hit the people who are cord stackers and, you know, find that right optimal reach. And then the same thing, your cord cutters, to Brian's side, we have to find a way to hit them more often. And maybe that's with OTT and online video both, to hit that right frequency. We have to be able to measure across all those platforms too.
So are you working with any company on the panel to enhance the reach of your platform?
Yes, we have a lot. We have multiple partners, and one of our key partners is Adam at MadHive.
So Adam, I know your company works with TV station groups EW Scripts. We've just got verification, so no fraud there. Tegna Gray, NBC, and Fox. Help us understand your value proposition and your success.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as I stated when you introduced us all, we started developing enterprise software solutions for groups, like Scripps, and kind of getting deep into the enterprise there to allow the sellers to offer reach extension in an easy way to a linear buyer, right? And how does that work in the existing workflow? And how do you provide TV-like metrics in the context that there is no fraud in linear TV, and reach is kind of understood from the point of view of whether it's Nielsen or whatever it is. So how do we kind of like make it look and feel like that product? So that's really where a lot of our attention goes to from a product point of view.
Okay, thank you. Brian Hunt, at our last session back in October, you mentioned that you and TV Squared would be working together. Did that happen?
Yes, it has happened. We are currently utilizing TV Squared for our Compulse OTT product to measure web lift attribution. And, it's the type of measurement that, we primarily have a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 sort of local and regional clients. You have to have the right specific use case where that measurement's, really going to make sense, which is, is the creative driving people to a website, and then what is the measurement? I think it's a particularly great technology when you have more than one creative for doing A/B testing. But we've been working with TV Squared for, I want to say, 3 to 6 months right now, and it's going great. And we continue to grow that relationship and utilize that technology for our advertisers.
So Joe, just for verification purposes, are you working with Sinclair?
Yes, he's not making it up.
Oh, say again.
Hang on.
We lost Joe. We will come back to Joe. Let's do Chris Wilson. Chris, with great power comes great responsibility. It's a proverb popularized by Spider-Man comic books that date back to the French Revolution. What part does measurement play in the success of OTT? What is your impression?
Well, I mean, I think in order for any medium to realize its full potential, measurement's important. You need objective third-party measurement, number one. Number two, you need to make sure that measurement, especially today, isn't in a silo and is measured in conjunction with everything else. There's been a lot of talk about reach extension. It's really important to understand how OTT fits in with linear television buys, addressable buys, OTT buys, digital buys, and how all those things work together for an advertiser in order for them to accomplish their goal. So one of the things that we really focused on based on the scale of the data we have across all of this is being able to understand the overlaps between those to help brands and agencies from a measurement perspective understand that duplication and be able to get a true or a holistic reach and frequency across all of that. So when it comes to, and this is something that's been pretty exciting, when it comes to OTT, it's super complicated in certain cases, because if you're looking at platforms, you can have certain OTTs platforms that have a linear ad load, some that have dynamically inserted ads, some that have no ad load at all. It's being able to separate those out, understand how to attribute those impressions from the measurement standpoint, understanding, as Brian said, the 25 or 28% are cord cutters, how do I reach them? So if I'm a heavy linear TV advertiser, there's going to be a portion of my audience that's going to be light linear viewers that are within my target group. How do I supplement that, or how do I bring OTT into the mix to be able to do that and understand how all those things work together? So that's really where our focus has been, is being able to bring all those components together from a measurement perspective of the agencies and brands. And then on the sell side, I think similar to what Lauren was talking about, is being able to help our sellers be able to sell portfolios of inventory to be able to help those advertisers accomplish their goals. So measurement is, I think, critical for any medium to be able to realize its full potential and be able to maximize the value it brings to advertisers.
Thank you, Chris. Back to Joe. Joe?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you
Yes.
clearly.
Okay, good. I'm in Florida. I'm sorry. The Wi-Fi might be a bit dicky. I'm confirming that everything Brian Hunt said about us working with Sinclair to be true. And I would say, Sinclair's crushing it, full impression based with us. So, I would say they're ahead of the rest. And as Brian said, we started with Compulse and Zip, and we're now expanding to include data-driven linear, and we started with a few markets and we're expanding to all 90. So it's going great, and the sales team is leaning in. They are keen to change the narrative and be able to talk to those tier 2 and tier 3 advertisers about outcomes.
Good. Okay, now for a commercial interruption. So far in this panel, we have touched upon TV station group OTT forays, OTT supportive tech, attribution, and measurement. I thought it would be a good idea to bring in the FAST, free ad-supported TV. We hear about Samsung's TV Plus, Roku's Roku channel, Vizio Watch Free, but what about the standalones with original product? So I thought who better but Brian Schaefer would share with us a historical view of Vivo's evolution to FAST status, and so take it away.
No, thanks, Mitch. So music videos have a bit of a rich history when it comes to television distribution, coming on to the pay TV ecosystem 40 years ago in 1981. Really mutually beneficial relationship with the pay TV ecosystem growing, helping grow the importance of that as a means for younger viewers to find culturally relevant content, but also just really made music videos a bit of brought a lot of cultural cachet to the forefront of media. And in 2009, went and partnered with YouTube to distribute on the YouTube ecosystem, part of the YouTube revolution. And approaching 12 years into that relationship, a couple of years ago, we sat down and we're thinking about how do we find growth in this ecosystem. For a few years now, the music videos we represent regularly reach half of YouTube, regardless of platform. And how can we take advantage of expanding our coverage footprint? So over the past couple of years, we've been just really laser focused on expanding our distribution footprint in the CTV space, partnerships with Amazon for Fire TV and Echo, Roku, Pluto, Apple, Redbox, T-Mo, Telstra in Australia, Sky, Comcast, X1 and Flex platforms, Viewed, Zumo, Samsung, and others, just really focused on how can we make it easy for people to find and enjoy music videos above and beyond what they've been able to access on YouTube. We know it is very valuable content in that it has tremendous scale, but atop that, we also know that it's important to YouTube in that the vast majority of that content viewership is driven by search and deep linking into the content. So we know it carries a lot of water for a service that is driven, whose viewership is driven largely by algo. And so the past few years, as we stood up these networks, really, I would say this network, as we headed into 2020, we really went from it representing about CTV representing about 4% of our business in early 2020 to Q3, it representing 20% of our business, Q4 representing 30% of our business, Q1 of this year representing 40%, and as we head into Q2 and get visibility into Q2, CTV will represent half of our business going forward, at least. And so we've just been really excited about the CTV story, especially juxtaposed against the dearth of supply in market in sight, sound, and motion against good quality content.
So you mentioned to me that you had a deal in the works on attribution. That was becoming an important aspect because reach is important, but attribution, as Chris had said, hey, right target, hitting the right audience. Anyone on the panel come to mind?
Absolutely. So, we've been really bullish on just the opportunity with this network to have, reliable and valid data-driven solutions for our advertisers, and have done a range of partnerships to get us there. We're actually deep in engagement with TV Squared right now. We're just trying to find a mutually beneficial client to dive in the pool with us. So we're really excited about that, and just a lot coming for the market overall this past year. I think a couple years as everybody's thought through GDPR and CCPA and things like that, implications around privacy, understanding the importance of these solutions from a profiling and targeting and identity resolution perspective. I feel like we're going to really start to see the market uptake that and start to harmonize a lot of this lower funnel attribution with upper funnel brand building and understanding reach and how reach works in the space.
So thanks, Brian. Brian Page, I told you I'd come back to you. So you mentioned a concern about the future of location-based attribution due to changes fostered by Olympians, Google, and Apple. Could you please share your concerns?
Well, the biggest concern is what I call the perfect storm, with the CCPA and the GDPR and cookies going away and iOS 14 with the IDFA. Each one of them, people have to opt in, whether it's a browser or an app. People have to opt in to let their location to be tracked because they're anonymized. So I think the ability for us to accurately track with foot traffic attribution is in deep jeopardy for some time. And Google, I have a sneaky suspicion, will follow suit with their Google Ad ID. I think it'll be just a matter of time before they do it as well. Apple's stance is you have to opt in. Right now, only 30% of their people are opting out. Then you have Android out there saying you just have to opt out, and they're only getting about 3% of the people to opt out. Long story short is we're losing a large part of our data to track people. So I'm very concerned about foot traffic attribution and things like view-through conversion and traditional remarketing. I think they're all at great risk with this perfect storm going on, and a lot is to be seen.
So Brian, hold on for a second. Adam, are you looking into this arena? You must have an iron in the fire in this, or no?
Yeah, we are. It's pretty fascinating what's going on and how much infrastructure and ad tech gets built on, these core things that are now going away, right? So, kind of like the TV Squared approach of panels, things like that. I mean, panels to provide directional support for media planning is something we're really looking at. We have a mobile panel as well that we're the process of deploying for that type of stuff to A, validate our device graph, and B, provide directional analysis on where things, if a campaign is working or not. And also from a TV point of view, we still get raw router data like IP address and things like that. So from our point of view, we're kind of relying on like the live ramps of the world that kind of aggregate data sets and we can provide continuity into those sets that get data elsewhere, as well as now it's an opportunity to do like Facebook style lookalike audiences and other types of things that traditionally haven't been in the TV universe. So
okay. Brian Hunt, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with Adam. I mean, we've deployed and been partners with LiveRamp, which is because of their way they do it with their IDLs, their identity links, is CCPA compliant. So we've definitely had a relationship with them. We at Sinclair, we have about 50 million uniques among all of our 300 plus apps and properties. So we're starting to think about how do we target sort of our own consumers and our own first party data, and do we build that, do we partner with somebody? So we're really beginning to take this seriously in the connected TV side, because there's no cookies in connected TV. We've sort of been dealing with this actually ahead of the mobile and desktop side for a while. But now, everyone's got to kind of deal with it. So I do think certain players like LiveRamp and others in the space are in a unique moment in time where they could, really begin to help us kind of get over this hump. So I really agree with, Adam's, point of view. And a device graph, if you, have and can maintain your own device graph, if you have enough scale, and again, we have 50 million uniques, that's very helpful in allowing you to be able to target at least your own, owned and operated subscribers.
Thank you, Brian. So I'd like to expand our discussion on OTT again from local and national TV station initiatives, such as with Sinclair or EW Scripps, to include national streaming services, linear TV, local and network inventory, and operating systems. Operative has recently been in the news with Fox and NBCU. Lauren, will you please explain and talk to us about the services you'd be providing?
Sure, thanks, Mitch. Operative had some announcements in the last few weeks with NBC and Fox, really surrounding our flagship product called AOS. And so I'll just spend a minute describing the how, and then talk a little bit about how Fox and NBC specifically are consuming the platform. AOS has a core operating system, much like Apple's iOS. And it's pretty simple what we do, but it's a complicated problem we solve. We aggregate inventory and information from all the downstream fulfillment systems and platform types and organize them into a single universal product catalog. And from there, it's pretty simple. Again, we point and structure your products in a way that align with the media company's go-to-market. So we're pointing these products at new growth markets or existing markets and allowing them to trade with any currency, supporting any transaction method. And so what this really does is it sets up big media companies that have scale to sell as a true portfolio, to compete in new markets with automation, and deliver every time for every buyer with any currency. And the result, more revenue, less cost, more automation, higher margins, right? All the things people are looking for. So like, for example, with an NBC, who we were announced as a key partner to One Platform during 121, which was one of their events from last week. NBC is a customer of the AOS operating system. And they're using that core piece of AOS because they have lots of tech they want to leverage that they own and build on top of, right? Everyone might know about their acquisition of Sky, who brought to the table in the US a planning system for addressable and now linear and digital called AdSmart. So they're building that platform out on top of the AOS platform. So they need our operating system as a master SDK to sit on top of their legacy systems, and now they can build and go fast. And the end result is really turning on all inventory sources into a single data set, allowing NBC to trade all offerings, any currency they want at scale. Whereas Fox needed a lot more. They wanted our operating system, but the apps too, things like pricing, planning, deal maintenance, stewardship, all the things that happen from pitch to pay. But the end result is the same. They want to turn on all their inventory sources into a single data set to allow themselves to trade at any currency they want at scale.
So this is portfolio sales. So I just want for the audience that's listening, when you look at cross-platform, it's about yield maximization. Where do I get the biggest bang for my buck? And if there's audience deficiency, where does it cost me less? And then my clients stay happy. So if you think of Fox and its portfolio sales, well, you have broadcast network, cable networks, TV stations, a national streaming service like Tubi, a local streaming service like Fox Flex, and an advanced TV product through Fox Next. When you look at, as Lauren had said, NBCU, same situation, whether broadcast cable networks, TV stations, they have their streaming service Peacock, and maybe in the future a universally named one. Local streaming service, NBC Spot On, and advanced TV products through NBCU AdSmart. So Lauren, how are you going to handle all this activity?
Well, we're built to solve a complicated problem like this. And in some ways, it's been easy for networks because Nielsen was always there to hold the industry together. And that is absolutely cracking, right? And so you need to find another way to help media companies sell as a portfolio and support not just one currency, but multiple currencies. And it's a tough nut to crack because media companies haven't had to think about like things like supply chain aggregation and operating systems and going through the motions that a lot of these other industries have gone through, like e-commerce, for example, where a lot of these retailers had to go compete with Amazon and really start to digitize all of their inventory. So if you're a large network, you've been kind of holding off this impression game for a while because it's not really great, because you're really making the bulk of your money on ratings. Whereas if you're a local, station organization and you have access to data and lots of sellers, you can't move to impressions fast enough. But what's happening at the network level is that everyone wants to buy outcomes, everyone wants to bring their own data, and things like Nielsen are still around, but you're seeing a spike in secondary, KPIs and a lot of the things that have been talked about today. And to differentiate, you have to go beyond one currency and multiple currencies. So technology is the new Nielsen. Operative looks at itself as the new Nielsen because someone needs to step up and help preserve the relationship that agencies and media companies have always had, which is trust in a deal that they do and ensuring it's going to deliver. Because if campaigns don't deliver, the agency looks bad too. And that's really hard right now when you're managing multiple platforms and trying to deliver multiple currencies for different buyer types.
Thank you. Chris, so we're talking about going, so from age and gender, we're looking at behavioral characteristics. We're looking from ratings to impressions. We're looking from let's look at every individual platform to now a portfolio sale. So it seems to me that knowing what the audience is and the value proposition will help with what Lauren is doing, because not all impressions are equal. What do you think?
No, look, I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, I agree with a lot of what Lauren said. I mean, at the end of the day, the current system that people have used for a long time from a measurement perspective is broken. There is portfolio selling that's taking place. It takes a massive amount of information, basically standardized and projected in a consistent way across all media types. And that's a big part of what we're doing at ComScore. I mean, we are focused on audience versus demos. We're focused on impressions, not GRPs. Impressions are the common language across all media. And you have to basically be able to bring all these pieces together and understand the duplication, which means you need tens of millions of signals or impressions across, TV, digital, OTT, and you have to normalize that information so it all can work together across those metrics. So the data strategy and the data component of that, married with the audience and being able to link that information is critical. But it's not just about the sell side, it's about the buy side too. The agency's business model is evolving, and they want to be able to look at this stuff holistically and base their fortunes on being able to deliver results for brands. So that requires a whole new way for them to look at measurement and understand how it works together. But make no mistake, there needs to be a standard way to basically be able to communicate between buyer and seller in an objective third-party way. It isn't going to be a fragmented approach. Yes, first-party data is going to come to the party, but how that first-party data is evaluated and how transactions are looked at and valued is going to be consistent. It's going to get super complicated. You can just look at the OTT landscape and see how fragmented that is and the different types of piece components that are there. You've got advanced linear, you've got traditional linear, you've got addressable, and you have to have an organization that can measure all of those things and bring them together in a consistent fashion. And, that's why we're super, super excited about the future, because, we feel that the marketplace is moving towards what ComScore has been doing for a decade. And it is going to be about working with a lot of the folks on this call, whether that be, Mad Hive, or whether that be Operative or others, to be able to provide that information in those systems. But that is going to be, the way the buyers and sellers, I think, are going to communicate as it relates to understanding what they're buying and how it compares to everything else in the marketplace.
Thank you, Chris. So Joe, initially when we heard about your company a few years ago, it was about attribution, but now you list yourself as a measurement and attribution company. Can you explain that evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lorne nailed it. Software is the new Nielsen. He said technology, I think, but the only way to keep up with everything that Chris just talked about is with scalable, infinitely scalable software and speed. Everything has to be based on an impression. And what we realized, Mitch, was we were kind of doing step 2, which was attribution and outcomes. But in order to do step 2, you have to measure every single impression. So of course we now do measurement. We have a ton of DSPs and streaming platforms that use us just for reach and frequency. And obviously the audience stuff as well. I think, summarizing what's been said here, I want to make sure that TV Squared stays, we're the agnostic third party right now, and we're keeping it simple. It does not have to be complicated. We've got 150 million uniques on our household graph for CTV alone. We've got everything on the linear side now with Comcast Charter. We've got national broadcasters like NBC. I include Sky in that in the UK because we do all of their attribution for them for AdSmart. We've got 60 direct integrations with DSPs, SSPs, and streaming platforms. So the way we think about it is you should be able to do cross-platform reach and frequency and attribution and audiences globally for global brands. And that's got to be always on insights that are actionable across multiple currencies around the world. And I think, we're GDPR compliant, we're CCPA compliant, add identity to that, whether it's via block graph for our MVPD partners, UID 2.0 with the Trade Desk and IAB, LiveRamp IDL 121. There's going to be different forms of IDs that we have to work with. And the idea here is this is live in action, working at scale today, and it's super simple. And we as an industry need to keep it that way because at the end of the day, we want the marketers to spend more money on TV. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Patrick, we are going to go over just a couple of minutes because I want to get people's closing comments. But Adam, do you want to chime in on what the last 3 people have been talking about, Lorne, Joe, and Chris?
I don't have anything really to add except I concur the market is evolving and technology and software is the connector to provide like actual metrics rather than attestation and things like that. So yeah, just
okay.
Exciting as it grows.
Brian Schaefer, a question for you. You mentioned something about measurement, Nielsen and OTT. Did you want to say more about that? You didn't mention it
Sure,
to me, so you want to share that?
Yeah, as we believe we trade on multiple currencies today. You can validate with digital ad ratings. We work with TVision to quantify attention. We sell ratings where reach is guaranteed, using the multiple dimensions that GRPs give you and understanding reach from frequency. That's really important to people that are looking to add more reach to campaigns, and understanding that reach drives 90% of the success and media effectiveness. That's really important differentiation from a gross read. As Nielsen expands the coverage of DAR this coming year, partnerships with our distribution network, it's just going to really dramatically improve our coverage. We're laser focused on campaign measurement, less so about cumulative monthly metrics, things that we have to address in market on the regular to give people the proper context to weigh what we could deliver for them. But at the same time, I'm just really focused and bullish on Nielsen as the gold standard. I really do believe that their DAR product is a miracle, the ability to leverage first-party data at scale with the power of the panel. And to add to that, we for a long time have subscribed to linear television ratings. We're actually at a point now where we don't need to use that to show to the market what is happening. The networks and the buying community has more fully pivoted to streaming. So we actually exited our linear television ratings partnership to underwrite more of what is coming for currency measurement in OTT and CTV specifically. So really excited to share that.
All right, thank you. So closing comments for some people who haven't just closed comments. Brian Hunt, any closing comments?
In essence of time, I would say no. It's just an exciting space to be in, and look forward to the rest of the year with working with all of you.
Brian Page, can you do more than that?
Sure. First, everyone have a very safe and happy Easter, and can't wait till we all can get on the road and see each other again first. So stay safe. This last thing, Scripps Octane is an easy integrated platform that helps you. We're trying to make very complicated things easy, where you can plan linear, OTT, and digital in one buy, get a combined reach and frequency to get an optimal, avoid fraud and measure everything.
Thank you. Lauren, any closing comments?
Yeah, I would say that if you're a media company on the call and you're looking to unify and transform your business, I like to give actions. There's 4 steps. It's unify, organize, automate, and optimize. And there's no shortcuts. You really can't skip any of these. So I would find a use case where you need to converge things: programmatic and digital, linear and digital, local and national, multiple currencies. Pick something most relevant to you, where combining something to sell it to a high growth market will get you to the next level, and follow those steps: unify, organize, automate, and optimize. And you can't skip any.
All right, thank you. Joe.
Collaborate and keep it simple. Don't build walls. Let's work together so all sides of the trade win.
And we started with Justin. Justin, any closing comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have, I'm going to echo Joe here. I think we have reached the phase of the CTV media business of collaboration. We had individual media brands grow up and push forward and really dominate. And you can see what's happened in the last year, and you can hear the conversation here that for the business to win, for the ad business to win here, we all have to come together. We have to educate our advertiser partners, and we have to make it easy for them. And as you've heard here, everyone here is doing that and pushing hard on that. So kudos to us.
Panelists, thank you. Now back to Rick.
Mitch, thank you so much. And everybody on the panel, how wonderful it has been to spend this hour with you all. Great, rich discussions and ideas sharing, great action steps and recommendations. So thank you so much for all of that. Let me just close with a couple more thoughts. Again, we at BIA love to host these kinds of forums to bring the leading experts at the front edge of all of these trends, so you can hear directly from them what's going on now and where things are headed. The way we fit in is we help people, again, with local markets, what's going on there. The chart you put up at the beginning, Mitch, is kind of hard to figure out. We spend some time with our clients helping them figure out what's going on and where they can plug in and help them set goals and achieve those goals. 3 ways we do that: local market forecasts, I'll talk about that. Just trying to figure things out with different teams, sales teams, product teams, marketing teams is a challenge. And so one of the things we do is offer virtual briefings and strategy sessions on topics like OTT, CTV, and other topics in the local media market. And then competitive tools, competitive profiles, analytics, kind of war cards, how to go to market, to understand what your competition can do versus what you can do, how to position yourself, and all of the things going on in TV today. We talked about collaboration, cross-platform, performance, things like that. So that's our competitive intelligence service, our strategy consulting service, and then our data service that we call BIA Advantage. Next slide, please. And final thought here is we do forecasting, as I mentioned several times, for OTT. We have a 5-year forecast for every market, every TV market, and 95 different business categories. So if you're interested in looking at a market level to see what we have for the forecast, we have this special here. You can hit that URL for $195. You get a 5-year forecast for 95 verticals for 5 years in your market. Next slide. And that brings us home. You can contact us in various ways, as we note here. Once again, Mitch, thank you so much for helping us assemble this fantastic group of speakers. And I hope you all enjoy the weekend. whether you celebrate Easter or just an awesome weekend. Enjoy. Thank you again so much to our speakers for spending your time and expertise and sharing all of your great thinking with us. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you so much, Rick, and all of our panelists and Mitch for hosting. As you go log off, if you please just take a few seconds to fill out our survey on the way out. We really appreciate that. We'd just like to really know what you thought of today's webinar and how informative it was. So please just take a few seconds for that. Other than that, have a good day and enjoy your holiday weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks all.